If the Bengals win, they would be the 3 seed, face the Texans, eliminate the Jets. If the Jets win, the Bengals are the 4 seed. The Jets go to Cincinnati next week. So a huge game, obviously, for the Jets. What's the feeling of the team? The spokesman is the linebacker Bart Scott. And moments ago, he talked to Andrea Kramer.
Thanks very much. Well, Bart, Rex Ryan came in promising a new era in Jets football, and you were one of the marquee additions. But you know the Jets fans, they hope for the best and expect the worst, especially in situations like tonight. Why will it be different?
Because this is a new start, a new era. We're starting out trying to create a tradition where people can associate the Jets with winning, tough defense, a strong-minded team, a strong-willed team.
Of course, another huge addition this year, quarterback Mark Sanchez. What does he have to do tonight for you guys to be successful?
Stay within himself. Go out here in the elements like this, turnovers are key. Protect the football, hand it off to that great back we got there and lean on that offensive line.
All right, Bart, thanks a lot. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And Al, speaking of the elements, the field is very slick and icy in spots. In fact, I saw Chad Ochocinco had some problems with his footing throughout pregame.
We'll keep an eye on him. I mean, he will be in the starting lineup, but those guys are out, including Domata Peko, the defensive tackle, missing his 5th straight game, and Cedric Benson, their leading rusher, is out, not hurt, but he's carried the ball so much this year that Marvin Lewis wants to give him a rest, and that means we will see a lot of Larry Johnson. Cincinnati won the toss, elected to defer, and so Shane Graham will kick off for the Bengals. Always a swirling wind. If there's a prevailing wind in this building, it goes from north to south or from left to right as you'll be looking at the game. And we start with the ball already being blown off the tee, and that won't be the last time that happens tonight, Chris.
It won't. The kickers were out there going from right to left. They were able to drill some long field goals, but going the other way, they were lucky to get it there from about 45 yards.
So Leon Hall now comes in, and he will hold it for Graham. And the final game of the regular season is underway, and this is Brad Smith taking it at the 7. He ran a kickback 106 yards at Indianapolis last week. He's tackled at the 27-yard line, and let's take a look at the Jet starters.
Mark Sanchez, USC.
Thomas Jones, University of Virginia.
Tony Richardson, Auburn. Jericho Cotchery, NC State. Braylon Edwards, Lloyd Carrs, University of Michigan.
Dustin Kellen, Purdue University. Rebecca Shaw Ferguson, University of Virginia. Alan Faneca, LSU.
Nick Mangold, The Ohio State University.
Brandon Moore, Illinois.
Damian Woody, Boston College.
Faneca and Mangold will be going to the Pro Bowl. 28-yard line, and the Jets begin on the ground, and that's Thomas Jones having a great year with 1,324 yards coming into the game. The Jets traded up in the draft. They were going to pick 17th. They traded up to 5th so they could get that guy, Mark Sanchez, who was the MVP in the Rose Bowl last year. In his last college game, had 1 year of eligibility left at USC and opted to get into the draft and has been the Jets starter since opening day. 2nd down, 8 from the 30-yard line. Play fake and then a quick flip to the left side, and that is caught by Braylon Edwards, who came over in a midseason deal with Cleveland. He gets it out to the 36-yard line. It will be 3rd down and 2 for the Jets.
Well, Al, it doesn't take long to figure out exactly what the Bengals are going to do in this one. They're playing man coverage on these outside receivers, 8 guys up, essentially daring the New York Jets to throw the football.
2 great corners for Cincinnati and Jonathan Joseph and Leon Hall, each with 6 interceptions this season. Now Cincinnati goes to its nickel. The Jets with 3 wide on 3rd and 2. And rolling is Sanchez, and the pass is caught, and leaning for a 1st down is Jericho Cotchery. Morgan Trent making the tackle on the play, and he takes it out to the 39-yard line.
It's a really good job by Jericho Cotchery that time with his motion, essentially stopping, reversing, and then coming back the other way and creating just enough separation against the man coverage of Morgan Trent there to pick up that 1st down.
from the 39-yard line. Jones picks his way to the 41, stopped by Genty. Let's take a look at the Cincinnati defense.
Frosty Rucker, University of Southern California.
Tank Johnson, University of Washington.
Pat Sims, Auburn University.
Jonathan Fanini, University of Utah.
Rashad Genty, University of Central Florida.
Donnie Jones, University of Michigan.
Keith Rivers, SC.
Jonathan Joseph, South Carolina.
Chinadu Ndukwe, Notre Dame.
Tom Nelson, Illinois State University.
Leon Hall, Michigan.
So Pecco not playing tonight. He would be one starter. Chris Crocker, the safety, would be the other who's not playing tonight on 2nd down and 8. And this is a gain of maybe 1 for Jones, and Ndukwe making the tackle. It'll be 3rd down and 7 now for New York.
Well, you end up with these safeties going to play right at the line of scrimmage here and bring that extra guy through. Chinadu Ndukwe there. Really nobody can block him once you get that extra guy up there. And what the Jets have tried to answer with here are 3 wide receivers out to create just a little more space for Thomas Jones to make those runs. But Ndukwe is going to be almost like a linebacker tonight.
Now you've got the Wildcat with Brad Smith taking the snap. Played quarterback in college at Missouri. Very versatile. And Smith with a 1st down and a lot more inside the 20. And Brad Smith takes it to the 1-yard line. He can run, he can throw, he can catch, he can run kicks back. He had the longest play in Jets history last week, a 106-yard kickoff return, and this one is a 57-yard run.
Brandon Moore here with the key block coming around the edge, kicking out the linebacker and creating space. And we have seen this young man come up with some big plays out of that Wildcat formation. This has become very much a staple of this offense. No surprise they're running it early.
1st and goal from the 1-yard line. And now they give it to Jones, and he's in for the score. Just got in behind the fullback, Tony Richardson, and Jones takes it in. And the New York Jets score on their opening drive.
Brandon Moore one more time, but watch Tank Johnson slant down inside and make his job even easier. Ran right out of the hole. Easy touchdown for the Jets, and boy, is that nice when you're trying to get it at the other team to quit and think about next week.
Jay Feely for the point after. So Brad Smith with that 57-yard run on a 3rd and long, setting up the Jones touchdown. And the Jets lead Cincinnati 7-0. East Rutherford, New Jersey. Certainly the last regular season game ever to be played here. Almost certainly the last game ever. The only other possibility would be the Jets get into the playoffs and somehow host the AFC Championship game. And that would have to be against the 6th seed as they are seeded 5th. Short kick, and a fair catch is called for at the 32-yard line by Daniel Coates. And that's where Cincinnati will start its first drive of the game. One of the hallmarks of the Bengals this season has been an improved defense. That's a defense they had not allowed a run longer than 24 yards all season. And then Brad Smith hits him for 57 out of the Wildcat or Tiger Cat or whatever you want to call it to set up the touchdown by Jones. Now the Bengals from the 32-yard line with Ocho Cinco going in motion, setting to the right. Palmer has that knocked down, and that's Kerry Rhodes coming in on a safety blitz and getting there to bat it at the line of scrimmage.
If you're going to play Rex Ryan, you're going to expect this. They bring more pressure off the edge from their secondary than any team in football. And Kerry Rhodes, good thing he didn't catch that one and run it right in the end zone. The Cincinnati Bengals passing game has not been very good this season. They've had to rely on their running game too.
Jets rush a defensive back on about a 1/3 of opponents' pass plays, and that is highly unusual and tops in the league. 2nd down and 10 from the 32-yard line. And Palmer hands the ball off to Bernard Scott, rookie out of Abilene Christian. Let's meet the Bengals starters.
Carson Palmer, SC.
Bernard Scott, Abilene Christian.
Jeremy Johnson, Western Kentucky.
Chad Ochocinco, the Oregon State.
Lavernius Coles, Jacksonville, Florida.
Daniel Coates, Brigham Young University.
Andrew Whitworth, LSU.
Nate Livings, LSU.
Kyle Cook, Michigan State.
Bobby Williams, Arkansas Razorbacks.
Dennis Rowland, Georgia.
An offensive line that came around. Marvin Lewis saying that was his #1 priority as training camp began. 3rd down and 9. Palmer steps up to avoid the heat and then throws into the wing for Ochocinco, and it is incomplete. He's covered by Darrelle Revis, and the two have been texting back and forth and creating a lot of good-natured ribbing back and forth, and Revis is about as good as it gets when it comes to being a cover corner in the National Football League these days.
Well, you know what, Al, sometimes Carson Palmer, if he has a flaw, he can lock on to Chad Ochocinco too much. That time, Lavernius Coles was wide open for his first down.
Here's Kevin Huber, the rookie out of the University of Cincinnati. Punt fielded at the 12-yard line by Cotchery. Jericho brings it back up to the 24-yard line with 9:40 to go in the opening quarter. And the Jets with the ball and a 7-0 lead. Strength against strength in the rushing matchup tonight. The Jets with 167 yards per game. Best in the league. Bengals allowing second fewest yards. And then in 20-yard runs or more, the Jets with about 1 per game. And only 3 allowed by Cincinnati, and none longer than 24 yards until that Brad Smith run on the first series. Now Sean Green, the rookie out of Iowa, is the running back here after we saw Jones on the first series. And they start from the 24-yard line, and Sanchez gets flushed out, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Jericho Cotchery. You know, Chris, for years, the Bengals, and of course going back to your days with them in the 80s, and always thought about primarily about offensive football and firepower and scoring a lot, and rarely about defense. But now, as you look at the defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer, that's really become a major strength of the team.
Yeah, it's been really a total transformation of this team. They've gone from a high-flying, passing Indianapolis Colts type of offensive team to now defense and running game, but they have not been giving up plays like that, and it's not a very good way for them to start.
On 2nd down and 10, and this is the rookie Green barreling out to the 38-yard line. And he's really come on, and he's gotten a chance to shine because they lost Leon Washington about halfway through the season. And he has come on, and he and Jones are pretty much sharing the carries of late.
Well, it's been the Brandon Moore show so far right here. Once again, this time working against Pat Sims, and then got up on that second level. And I tell you, when they talk about Sean Green, they talk about him in terms of being like Michael Turner, one of the big, strong backs in the league, and he's getting more and more opportunities.
Gain of 15 from the 39 now. First down. Jones back in. Green to the 41-yard line. Sean Green still in, so a steady dose of Green, who is 5'11" and 226 pounds. And when Washington got hurt, Green had a chance to shine right off the bat. He gained 144 yards in a game against Oakland.
Well, this kid, you know, he was so impressive in college, set the Iowa single-season record with 1,850 yards and 20 touchdowns in that year. And he is a heavy back. He is just one of those guys in behind this great offensive line that can really cause some problems.
2nd down and 7 from the 42-yard line. Sanchez flips it out to the left side. Cotchery makes the catch. Cotchery trying to get that first down and comes up about a half-yard shy. Tom Nelson making the tackle. It'll be 3rd down and a short 1.
And it's just so key for Rex Ryan and the Jets to be able to throw the ball when they want to throw the football as opposed to when they have to throw the ball. And I watched a lot of tape on the Jets getting ready for this game. Mark Sanchez, I'll bet you, gets hit less than any quarterback in the league. This offensive line is as good as I've seen all season long.
Brian Schottenheimer, son of Marty Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator, on the headset, calling in the play. Sanchez going to keep it himself and gets low and goes over left guard. see about the spot. Halfway through the quarter, Walt Anderson says, I'll bring in the chain gang.
Tell you, I like how Mark Sanchez runs those quarterback sneaks. Watch the little move he makes, a little delay, and then goes the other way with it. So those linebackers, you saw Dhani Jones there, the middle linebacker, take one false step that way, and then come back to where you intended to go all along. He didn't get much of a push there, though.
Counter sneak.
Yeah.
First down. Rex Ryan trying to be a rookie coach with a rookie quarterback to get to the playoffs. He knows all about that because he was on the Baltimore staff for the last several years, and last year John Harbaugh came in, and along with Joe Flacco, not only did they go to the playoffs, they went to the AFC Championship game.
And you'd never know he was in a significant game tonight. He was relaxed, he was having fun, he was joking with his team. He loves this game. And
now he puts Smith in at quarterback. So Smith, who had the 57-yard run out of the Wildcat, will keep it after the fake. And this time he's out of bounds at the 50-yard line, and Dukwe running him out of bounds at that spot.
It's pretty good for a broken play here. I think he was clearly trying to hand that ball off to Sean Green and just finally had to keep it. It's very unusual. We see a lot of this Wildcat stuff around the league, but nobody does it underneath the center. And Brad Smith was a very good quarterback in college. You can see that Sean Green was turning around and going, wait a minute now, do you have it? You're all right? But I think we're going to see quite a bit of Brad Smith tonight. It just makes sense. You don't want to put a lot on Sanchez in this game.
Sanchez back in on 2nd and 8. Ball just across the 50. And this is Cotchery on the outside, and he stretches forward, leaving the Jets about 2 yards shy of the first down. Hall and Nilsson in on the tackle. It'll be 3rd down and 2.
Well, one of the ways the Bengals thought they were going to win this game tonight is they thought they matched up very well with their 2 outstanding cornerbacks, Jonathan Joseph and Leon Hall on the outside. They thought they could play single coverage, add the extra man to help stop the run. That's really been their formula all season long. They run through these 2 cornerbacks.
And on the ground, and another first down, and Sean Green takes it to the 36-yard line. Again, he gets in behind the fullback, Tony Richardson, in his 15th season in the league.
Boy, Tony Richardson, unbelievable at age 38 as a lead blocker. I don't know what you compare that to, but watch him come through here against Keith Rivers and just blow him right out of the hole. I mean, that is not just contact. That is contact and elevation. You can get that from your fullback, you've got a big chance.
A lot of good years for Tony in Kansas City from the 36-yard line. Green again. Every time I look at Richardson, I think about his other source of income. He makes enough money playing football, but he also collects rent from Brett Favre. Favre is renting Tony's house in Minneapolis.
Well, you son of a gun. I wonder who's renting his house here. You know, it is, though. It's fun to see a guy like Tony Richardson. And, you know, fullbacks are one of those positions you just don't think you last much longer than age 30 with the beating that you take. But he has been a tremendous player for a long time.
3.5 years older than any other running back or fullback in the NFL. 2nd down and 8. Green to the left side this time. And he'll take it to the 30-yard line following DeBrickashaw Ferguson. That makes it 3rd down and 4 for the Jets.
You know, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, I think, is the most improved player that I've seen in the league. Number 60, pulling out. Watch how athletic he is here, going against Tom Nelson, a safety. His feet being able to stay on him. When I first saw him in the league, I watched a guy that got a lot of help, a lot of tight ends over, a lot of chipping with backs. Now you put on the tape, you don't see any of that. You see him one-on-one blocking the best pass rushers in the league and doing a great job.
Thomas Jones back-ended running back on 3rd down and 4. And they give it to Jones. And that's another first down for the Jets to the 24-yard line. Got in that time behind Alan Faneca, who'll be making his 9th trip to the Pro Bowl.
Well, if you saw Faneca when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you saw this power play a lot. He's going to pull right around here and lead block. That was the Steelers' favorite play. It's becoming now the Jets' favorite play. And when you really need something, that's where they go. Al, this offensive line is powerful. They're athletic. They're pass blockers. They've sent 2 guys to the Pro Bowl. I could very definitely make a case for DeBrickashaw Ferguson being the 3rd. They have dominated all season.
And a timeout is taken here with 3:20 left in the quarter. All Jets to this point with 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the first quarter. Pat Sims, the defensive tackle, will take a cart ride back to the locker room, and already minus Pecco tonight. So we're going to see a lot more of Sean Smith in the defensive tackle, and Gathers is inactive tonight. So the Bengals are short along that defensive front. After the Jets timeout, first down. New York at the 25-yard line. And over the right side for a gain of 4 goes Sean Green.
I tell you, the other thing I see showing up here tonight is Ray Malaluga not being in there for the Bengals. He was really the enforcer on this defense. He had a way of, on those isolation plays with the fullback coming through, coming out and just taking out the fullback and allowing other guys to make a tackle. And right now, this defensive line is getting whipped and the linebackers can't get there.
And there is Genty, who was a starter, and then he lost his job to the rookie, and now he's back starting again. He's also a maven on special teams. Sanchez buying a ton of time, then throwing for the end zone and throwing that one out of bounds. Intended receiver was Braylon Edwards. And that will be 3rd down and 5 now.
I'll tell you, for Mark Sanchez, though, this was a pretty good throw. Okay, they don't complete the pass, but he only gives his guy, Edwards, a chance to make that catch. Must have been one of those red light plays. You know, they do the color-coded things where green light, go ahead and take some chances. Yellow, be cautious. Red, if you throw an interception, we're going to whip you. And right now, he's going out to play wide out.
Now you've got the Wildcat, and look at this formation here with Brad Smith taking the snap. You've got Mark Sanchez in the game, split to the left. Then you've got an option play here, and you've got Sean Green taking the toss and taking it down to the 13-yard line for a first down.
One of the things about the option, especially with 2 guys in the backfield, you end up with somebody on the guy you're actually reading. That time, Frosty Rucker was the one they were going to read, but they blocked the guy on the outside. You know, NFL teams don't spend a lot of time covering their assignments on the option, and if you're going to run at the Bengals corners, Jonathan Joseph is the right one to choose.
Is there a more appropriately named guy in the game than Frosty Rucker? Flag is thrown, our first one, and that is Sean Green, and he lost the ball. And there's no whistle yet, and now it's a recovery by Cincinnati. So Green burrows into that hole and then loses the football.
Offsides, number 95, defense. 5-yard penalty. It's still first down.
But with Orion Harris offside, it doesn't matter. Free play, as it turns out.
Well, right now, the New York Jets have become a 3rd down machine. They have converted every one so far in this game. Let's see. Orion Harris just going to jump.
Is reporting as eligible.
So he comes across the line, then Green loses the ball, and the ruling on the field would have been upheld, not for the penalty. Jones is the running back now, 1st and goal. Thomas takes the ball a yard or 2. Jonathan Fanene making the tackle.
You know, a few years back when the New York Jets in the first round took Nick Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson, you thought, boy, that's a statement right there. They're gonna really start turning things over in this bad weather and the old Giants teams, and you think of all the power football that's been played in this stadium. And boy, did they hit 2 big-time players in that draft, and then threw Alan Faneca into the mix as well.
Misspoke on the 1st and goal. 2nd down and 3. Thomas Jones the running back here. 2nd down and 3 from the 7-yard line. And over the right side, Jones takes the ball to the 5-yard line as we tick down to a minute to play in the opening quarter, and it's going to be 3rd down and 2.
Well, as long as Brandon Moore continues to move people out the way that he has been so far, the Jets are just going to keep running that way. You've got defensive linemen on roller skates moving back to where it says JETS in the end zone.
17th play of this drive. And now Cincinnati takes a timeout. 3rd and 2 when we come back. Jets up 7-0 over the Bengals. 17th play of the drive coming up. The Jets are 6 of 6 on 3rd down. They've got Jones and Smith both in the game now. And you've got Smith taking the snap and handing the ball to Jones. And Jones fights his way for a 1st down. So 7 for 7 on 3rd down are the Jets, and this will be a 1st and goal.
Well, as if the Bengals haven't had enough problems with this offensive line, they add another one right here. Wayne Hunter do the double team and then come up on the 2nd level. And it has just been an overwhelming performance so far by the big guys up front for the Jets.
And that will be the end of a 1st quarter dominated by the Jets, who will start the 2nd quarter with a 1st and goal at the Cincinnati 1-yard line. After 1, it's the Jets 7 and the Cincinnati Bengals nothing. And Sunday Night Football continues after these messages. Giants Stadium in the Meadowlands, East Rutherford, New Jersey. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer wrapping up the regular season. The Jets trying to get into the playoffs. And that would set up a rematch next week at Cincinnati. It's 1st down and goal from the 1-yard line. And the ball is handed off to Thomas Jones. And there's no signal yet, as Jones is stopped shy of the goal line. This drive began back at the Jet 24-yard line. This next play will be the 19th play of the drive. They have had the ball for all but 66 seconds.
Watch Frosty Rucker right here go underneath everybody, take out the fullback here, and basically stop the play. I wonder how many more times they can do that. That's as close as they've come to stopping the Jets the entire evening.
2nd and goal. And that'll be stopped here on the left side as Jones will get bunched up at the 2-yard line. So again, the Jets with a 3rd down, 3rd and goal, and they are 7 for 7 on 3rd down against Marvin Lewis's defense.
How about that? They do the exact same thing. That time it was Jonathan Fanene just crawling underneath every offensive lineman out there and stopping the play. So the same design works 2 plays in a row. Fanene coming right off of here underneath. Going to take out the pulling guard there. Faneca coming around and stop the play.
And now Sanchez is going to take the snap out of the shotgun. And a timeout is taken here by the New York Jets.
30-second timeout.
Just a 30-second timeout. And there is the brand new stadium, which is ready for occupancy and will be the home of the Giants and the Jets next year. The Giants have played in this old park since '76. The Jets moved here in '84. And they've always been the second citizen. There's no question about that. I mean, for starters, it's named Giant Stadium. There's Woody Johnson, who's now owned this team for about a decade. And one thing that he'll be very happy about is the new stadium will not be known as Giant Stadium.
No, it won't. And I'm going to be happy about the fact they have 4 tunnels instead of just 2. Yes. I used to come in here as a player, and that wind would be whipping every which way. Trying to catch a football was a nightmare in here.
It'll be 3rd down and goal now. 20th play of the drive. Sanchez out of the shotgun. And Sanchez to the end zone and behind Braylon Edwards, and incomplete. So it'll be 4th down and goal with Leon Hall covering on the play.
Wolverine against Wolverine here, and Sanchez just really fired this ball in here. Looked like it's going to be one of those back shoulder kind of throws, but he threw it so hard that Edwards just really didn't have a chance to adjust late to it. If he'd have taken a little bit off of that one, I think Edwards would have had it. Big stand, though, by the Bengals to keep him in the game.
Now Jay Feely with a 20-yard field goal attempt. And that is good. So that's the 21st play. They had 15 rushes, 5 passes, and then a field goal. Early second quarter, Jets 10, Bengals nothing. Of course, the Houston Texans, the other team with a little bit of interest in this game and not too thrilled at the moment, because the Jets would have to lose for the Texans to get in. Kick taken at the 1-yard line by Bernard Scott. And the electric rookie out of Abilene Christian takes it to the 30-yard line. He's tackled there by Jamal Westerman. The Bengals this year, what a road it has been. Division dominance. They sweep the North for the first time ever. Mike Zimmer's wife dies suddenly in October, and he still made the trip to Baltimore, where they won the following weekend. And then, of course, the Chris Henry death after a domestic dispute in Charlotte, North Carolina. First division crown since '05, and only their second winning season in almost 2 decades, since 1991. From the 30-yard line now on 1st down. And the handoff goes to Bernard Scott, and he's taken down behind the line of scrimmage by Bart Scott. You know, Chris, you look at this team, and you know them as well as anybody. You know, they went 4-11-1 last year with Carson Palmer missing much of the season. Nobody really expected that much from the Bengals, and they, I think, did a lot more than almost anybody anticipated.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, but it's been amazing, the transformation to a defensive and a running football team. Carson Palmer in this offense has been booed at every single home game so far this year. People in Cincinnati are used to a high-flying offense, and it's just not their makeup this season.
Yeah, people want style points as well as wins. 2nd and 13, and that pass is incomplete, as Leonard and Rhodes came in on a double safety blitz to bust it up. 3rd and 13.
Well, I think right now Bengals fans would settle for a 1st down. This pressure is really starting to get to Carson Palmer. You're going to continue to see this kind of heat even on screen passes until you do something with it, and right now the Bengals offensively have no answer.
3rd and 13. Palmer is 0 for 3. Jets have outgained the Bengals 141 yards to -2.
Darrelle Revis one-on-one with Ocho Cinco.
And with the Jets showing blitz, and a flag is thrown, and Palmer's also calling for a timeout.
There's no foul on the play.
And it is a timeout. One of the subplots coming into the game, Chad Ochocinco, Darrelle Revis, the matchup, wide out and cover corner. And Ochocinco told Bob Costas yesterday, as you looked at what took place before the game, mutual respect with these guys, a lot of kidding around. He said to Bob yesterday, if Revis shuts me down, I'm changing my name back to Johnson.
You better get the paperwork ready.
3rd and 13.
One-on-one, he's got him. He wants him.
And he's pressing him, too. And Palmer's going to throw in that direction. And the pass is incomplete, and Ochocinco gets whacked by Kerry Rhodes. So he gets inside of Revis, and then with safety help, Rhodes comes in to give him a shot, and it's 4th down.
Good disguise that time by the Jets. This looks like it's going to be man coverage on the outside, but instead they roll the safety over the top, and Carson Palmer tries to fit one in there. We've seen him over the last 2 or 3 ball games get in trouble and make bad decisions, trying to force balls into Chad Ochocinco. Got away with that one, but barely.
The rookie Huber to kick, and the wind knocks that one down, and it's a duck that goes out of bounds short of midfield. And that will give the Jets the ball in Cincinnati territory. A texting war. I'm coming to the Big Apple, give them what they've never seen, an escape inmate gone wild on Revis Island. And then Revis writes back, good morning, world. I just woke up from the crazy dream. He came to Revis Island and disappeared. Ocho Cinco responds to that. Laughing out loud, says Revis, we only have room service. Everyone tuned into the 2485 show. But right now it's been the Jet show, period. The Bengals do not have a first down. The Jets have controlled the football for all but 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And with the ball in midfield on first down, Thomas Jones is the running back, and he'll take the ball to the 46-yard line of Cincinnati to make it 2nd down and 5.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say about Thomas Jones, and here's a guy that has put up huge numbers, over 1,000 yards, 5 years in a row. Occasionally, I see him kind of run into his own guys and not take full advantage of these blocks up front. You'll see right here, he's going to run right into DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who's really throwing a pretty good block, when there was a good hole over there with Alan Faneca, who he could have followed in behind, I think, for a big game.
They spotted back at the 48, so it's a gain of 3, and it's 2nd down and 7. And Jones this time gets to the 43. Where he's tackled by the outside linebacker Keith Rivers. It'll be 3rd and 2 for the Jets.
When you have a center as powerful as Nick Mangold, you're always going to be able to win the battles. Watch him right up front. This is a guy that physically, he was trying to stretch and run, but he just continues to move people off the ball in a way that you don't see centers around this league, and he can get up on the second level. There are powerful centers and move centers. This guy can do both.
First round pick back in 06 out of Ohio State is Mangold.
Ball start, number 78, offense. 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
Wayne Hunter, who comes in and lines up on the end of the line very frequently. It'll be 3rd down and 7.
You know, both of these teams are sort of starting new trends in the league. They play 6 offensive linemen, 7 offensive linemen. It's all about power football. Rex Ryan said, hey, we're not fooling anybody here. This is going to be 2 teams, the exact same style of play, slugging it out in the middle of the field, and the offensive linemen are going to win the game or lose the game. And right now, it's pretty obvious which one's winning the game.
Yeah, the way the Jets are going, it's going to be a referee stops contest at some point. 3rd and 7, we hope not. And going deep for Edwards, and the pass is incomplete as he mistimed his leap a little bit. Looked like he was getting up into the air too early, and Leon Hall was back there. Ball might have hung, and it's 4th down.
Well, they're willing to go man-to-man. You see the inside technique here by Hall, and Edwards got by him. He was in great position and just couldn't come down with the football. He jumped a little bit too soon, was on his way down, and just missed it. And Braylon Edwards, if you followed him in Cleveland or here or anywhere else, he drops as many passes as anybody in the league. Makes a lot of big plays, but he drops a lot.
Now the punt by Weatherford, who's been bothered by a sore hamstring, and his status was in doubt as of Friday. And a fair catch is made by Quan Cosby. 10-0 Jets. Temperature now 20, wind chill is 5. Cincinnati without a first down. A third of the way through the game. We start from the 15-yard line. Palmer throws, and that's incomplete, intended for Ocho Cinco. Made it himself. We haven't had a chance to meet the Jet defense. Here they are.
Sean Ellis, Tennessee.
Sheldon Bohar, University of Utah. Marcus Douglas, Howard University.
Brian Thomas, UAB.
Bart Scott, Southeastern Jungliers.
Dave Harris, Ottawa Hills. Calvin Pace, Wake Forest.
Darrell Reeves, Pitt.
Jim Leonard, Wisconsin.
Kerry Rhodes, Louisville.
Lito Shepard, University of Florida.
The defense that's allowed the fewest points in the league and the fewest yards in the league. That going along with their offense. Number 1, rushing the ball. 2nd down and 10.
Wow.
And that's dropped at the 20-yard line. pass intended for Quan Cosby, the rookie out of Texas, who's excelled on run backs this year. It'll be 3rd down and 10.
Wow, back-to-back drops by the Bengals, and they look nervous or just, I don't know what the heck's going on with this offense right now. I mean, this is 2 in a row, right, in the numbers, and now on 3rd down, you get everything out of Rex Ryan now. Watch out for anything here.
Palmer is 0 for 6. Total offense for Cincinnati, -2. Jets dancing around defensively. Coming again. Palmer stepping up off to his left, pass incomplete. Flag thrown. All the way up at the 27-yard line.
Yeah, that was pretty clear. Darrelle Revis with some illegal contact.
And that's the way the Bengals will get their first down.
Illegal contact, number 24, defense. 5-yard penalty, 1st down.
Five yards, the limit for contact for defensive backs. Revis on the outside. They kind of get tripped up and will maintain that contact. I know as probably a lot of high school football players out there going, what the heck, you can't even do that, but it's the way it is. They like to see completed passes in this league.
From the 20 now on 1st down. With Dennis Rowland lining up as a wing. And Scott going nowhere again. Benson being rested tonight. He's their number 1 back. Their number 2 back is Larry Johnson, but we haven't seen him. It's been the rookie Bernard Scott.
Well, one of the things we continually see out of Carson Palmer is this handoff with his right hand. He has an injured left thumb, and so he makes the handoffs like that. Where it comes into play, I think, is when they try to go play action. When he goes play action, he has 2 hands on the ball, and it's very obvious that it's going to be a play action pass and not a handoff, and you see linebackers get a real jump on that.
2nd and 10. Just get the play off. There's the fake, and the pass caught at the 19-yard line, but the tackle is made immediately as Brian Thomas takes down the one-time Jet Lavernius Coles. And another flag.
Ineligible player downfield, number 71 of the offense. That penalty is declined. It's 3rd down.
Their rookie 1st-round draft choice, Andre Smith.
Andre Smith was just barely across the line of scrimmage, but once you go more than a yard downfield, let's see what happens.
It's a good way to describe it. 3rd down and 10, and you have a flag here, and the pass is dropped by Andre Caldwell.
There's a flag here, and we need Velcro out there.
Illegal shift, 2 players on the offense not being set prior to the snap. That penalty is declined. It's 4th down.
3 different drops on that particular set of downs, and when you talk to Carson Palmer, of course the tragic loss of Chris Henry meant so much to this football team, but it has also shown up big time on the football field. They just don't have the down the field threat the way they used to have it.
Kevin Huber to punt. Jericho Cotchery back at the 40-yard line. And the wind wreaking havoc with it, and it's fielded up at the 48-yard line by Brad Smith, who was back there with Cotchery, and he takes it to the 48 of Cincinnati. The Jets trying to get to postseason play, leading 10-0 at the Meadowlands. 128 yards on the ground for the New York Jets to -2, and the Jet offensive line doing the job, Chris.
They really are, and it's been across the board. Brandon Moore pulling out and around with a big block on the run by Brad Smith. Alan Faneca, much of the same. linebacker on the ground to Brickashaw Ferguson, showing his athleticism out on the safety, Tom Nelson. I don't know how many game balls they have to give away after this one, but they need at least 5.
And counting. Start with Thomas Jones as the running back as Ocho Cinco looks up at the big screen, and Jones takes it to the 44-yard line, and right now the Jets just doing it on the ground. And you know, Mark Sanchez throwing from time to time. Everything is short. 4 out of 8 for 21 yards, and a guy who threw the season with 12 touchdowns and 20 interceptions and a low rating in the 60s. When you would look at the numbers, you'd say, well, this team will probably be 5-11. But when you can run the ball like that and play defense like they can, that's why they're on the cusp of the playoffs. 2nd and 8 from the 45-yard line. Off play action, and the pass is right on target to Jericho Country for a first down to the Cincinnati 30-yard line.
Tell you, Cotry is working over guys, trying to cover him in the slot here. Coming up, looks like a run, looked like he was going up to block Tom Nelson, and instead comes off. But right now, Mark Sanchez is simply throwing when he wants to. And the Cincinnati Bengals have no answer for that. And now they have no answer for this either when they bring Brad Smith in.
Brad Smith taking the snap under center, and then this time Cincinnati is equal to the task as Green gets tackled by the cornerback Jonathan Joseph behind the line of scrimmage.
There's an answer for it. They went Rex Ryan on him. Start sending guys out of the secondary because you know they're going to try and run it. Coming right off the edge here. Catch him in the backfield, and it's a good thing he did. Looked like a pretty good hole to run through.
2nd down and 11. Under 7 minutes to play in the first half. Brad Smith back under center with Sanchez split to the left. Green is the running back. Fake to him. Then Smith keeps it. Inside the 20, inside the 10. Touchdown Jets. "32 yards. And you saw Ryan and Brian Schottenheimer, and Mr. Brad Smith has been a major story tonight.
So is Tony Richardson, the fullback. Watch him right out here. They're going to fake left, come back right, and run an option. Only there's nobody to option because Tony Richardson took out the guy they were supposed to read, and that's a walk-in touchdown. I feel like I'm watching Oklahoma, Nebraska here. That is some nice run.
Broke out of the hold of Genty, flagged down after the extra point.
How do you think the Bengals are feeling about the possibility of the Jets coming in now?
12 players on the defense. That 5-yard penalty will be assessed on the kickoff. The try is good.
Better than the Texans are feeling at the moment. 6:37 to go in the half. The Jets on top of Cincinnati 17-0. The playoff scenario again, the Bengals clinching the number 3 seed if they win, but right now the Jets in the driver's seat, and the Jets would go in if they win as the number 5 seed. Baltimore would go in as the 6. New England would be 3. And the Bengals would be 4.
And Mark Sanchez would be Fireman Ed.
Yes, he would. And Mark Sanchez's dad is a fire captain in Orange County in California, as Bernard Scott downs it in the end zone.
Well, you know, when you're a rookie, you got a lot to learn. You know, you got to learn all the plays and signals. And you also have to learn to pay attention to Fireman Ed. There you go.
Occasionally you have a hot dog on the sideline. There's Fireman Ed, for years a fixture here, and the JETS. That chant starts about an hour before the game when maybe 20 or 22,000 people are in the stadium. He warms them up at about 6:45.
Like Ed McMahon.
Larry Johnson is now the back. And they give it to the former Kansas City Chief, and he plows his way up to the 29-yard line. A lot of great years in Kansas City and a lot of controversy, and then he tweeted something that he shouldn't have, and that led to his departure from Kansas City, and then Cincinnati picked him up and put him in the lineup behind Cedric Benson. And he's a guy who obviously can be of great benefit to a team.
Well, and he was one of the premier players in the league for a long time with Kansas City. Cedric Benson sitting this one out. But he was told from the beginning, you are number 3 on this team. And he's had some big days, but he has been number 3.
2nd and 1. And for Ocho Cinco, and he gets blanketed by Rivas. And you watch Rivas play, and you see that this guy allows almost no separation.
Well, and what makes him a defensive MVP candidate in my mind is the fact that he has been doing this all season long. He has taken the premier wide receivers in the NFL and done this to all of them. There has not been a big day against him all season long. They talk about no shutdown corners anymore. There's at least one.
He plays in a division where he had to take Terrell Owens out twice. He had to take Randy Moss out twice. 3rd down and 1. And that pass is incomplete, intended for Caldwell, and the coverage that time by Lito Shepherd. Kerry Rhodes charging in on the safety blitz, and it's 4th down.
I tell you, the biggest difference in my mind with this New York Jets defense is their ability to play man coverage on the outside, which allows them to pressure the quarterback, to get after the run. And when you compare this defense to the Baltimore Ravens, how are they different? They're different at the cornerback position. They're better.
This is Huber's 4th punt. And fielded at the 31-yard line by Cotchery. Now to the 40-yard line with 5.5 to go now in the half. Chris talking about wide receivers shut down by Rivas, and he did it to Andre Johnson, twice to Moss, and twice to Owens, and that's an all-star cast up there of wide receiver names. And one Mr. Rivas has not allowed any of them to gain more than 35 receiving yards.
He's been spectacular, and I tell you, there's some great candidates. Defensive Player of the Year, Charles Woodson, Elvis Dumerville, Dwight Freeney, Darren Sharper, but he would get my vote.
From the 41-yard line on 1st down. Fake flip. Here's Green. You know, Chris, we were talking to both coaches, and it was clear, I mean, for Rex Ryan, this was a winner in game. So he had to come in with his A game plan. One game plan just to get him to another game. With Marvin Lewis, it's a different story. Marvin's not coming in with his A game plan here because he knows, and the way it looks right now, he's going to face the Jets next week too.
Yeah, and clearly they practice plays for the Jets that they're not running tonight. And he said a lot of times that's the best way to do it because you get 2 weeks essentially to install something instead of a single week.
On 2nd and 6, Sanchez buying time. And then Cotchery comes back and hauls it in for a 1st down.
I like what Sanchez is doing tonight. That was pretty good coverage on the outside by Jonathan Joseph there on Cotchery. Cotchery came back to the ball, but watch how exact this ball is from Sanchez. The bootleg took care of the blitz, but this one is just absolutely perfect. I tell you, you can see his confidence growing, obviously, with the 17-0 lead, but for Mark Sanchez, a big moment if he can put his team in the playoffs as a rookie.
From the 46-yard line. Here's Green. Gain of about 4.
You know, it's Thomas Jones has been the star back here for a long time, but the more you watch this Sean Green and the more you look around the National Football League, most top-end teams have at least 2 backs that can really play, that can take the burden, if you will. And right now, late in the season, this offensive line, these two backs, it has just made life so easy for Mark Sanchez. And when he does go play action, they're not even getting close to him.
Look at that. They've already allowed about twice as many yards in less than a half than they have on a per-game basis this season. And a lot more to come. Smith has 91 by himself. Here's Green. And it'll be 3rd and 1. And maybe, well, they're going to measure anyway, as Walt Anderson says, let's bring in the sticks.
Well, the two guys right over here are working all night long. They just continue to make plays. I got this one, you got that one. Let's drive them back. My guy's not making the play. Tank Johnson had to play tonight. They thought about sitting him out for the Cincinnati Bengals, but because of the injury to Domata Peko, he was unable to go before the game. Johnson had to be out there with a bad foot. And I think it shows a bit.
The missing link.
Rex?
Well, not really. He'd appreciate that.
That's a fun guy. I'm telling you, you know, the whole Ryan family, anytime you get around them, you're talking football, you're telling stories. And, you know, some coaches, you get in before a game like this and everything on the line, and they can't even think straight because they're so excited, so nervous. But Rex is a lot like his dad, Buddy. He just wanted to go get somebody, watch his guys go hit somebody, and makes it a lot of fun to talk football.
And his brother Rob, the defensive coordinator in Cleveland under Eric Mangini, and at least the Browns this year. Bad year, but they ended it with a strong rush at the end. 3rd and inches. Thomas Jones lines up at tailback, and here goes Sanchez again, and that's the second time he will have sneaked for a first down, and he's not finished yet. First down. You know, Sanchez and Palmer, they go all the way back. They went to the same high school in Southern California, Santa Margarita Catholic High School. When Palmer was 17, Sanchez was 10, and Sanchez would hang around at practice and was the water boy for Palmer.
Yeah, and he would come out there with his dad, and he would watch everything that Carson Palmer did, and then he and his dad would do every single drill that Carson Palmer did, and that's sort of how he got his start as a quarterback.
1st and 10 from the 36-yard line. Jones. Ticking down to 2 minutes. Let's check in with Andrea.
Well, two Bengals who were replacing injured starters are both in the locker room right now. Pat Sims still with that right arm getting x-rayed, and free safety Tom Nelson, who started for the injured Chris Crockers in the locker room with a left knee injury. They are calling his return questionable.
So the Bengals banged up. And of course, that doesn't augur well for next week when they will be in action the way it looks right now against the Jets. 17-0 at the 2-minute warning. Second and 7, 6 of 10 for 45 yards tonight. Running back is Thomas Jones. The pass to the outside, and that's caught by the tight end Dustin Keller. When Sanchez does not turn the ball over, he avoids mistakes. Take a look at that. When the Jets win the turnover battle, they're perfect. They are even in the turnover battle, 1-2, and when they're on the minus side, 0-5.
You know, he said, I couldn't believe we still had a chance to make the playoffs with all the rookie mistakes that I made. He said, you know, at USC, you lose one game and you're done. You're a disappointment. And here, we're still alive.
Well, Coach Ryan had him out of the playoffs after they lost to Atlanta. From the 24-yard line. Big hole. Jones, and he's in behind Faneca. Gain of 9.
Man, Alan Faneca almost knocked a guy out pulling around that time. There you go, right there. Watch this knockout blow. This makes it fun to be a running back. Just took out Keith Rivers that time.
Second and 1.
Pretty good by the old Rook.
Did he draw his own guy off?
Encroachment, number 99, defense. 5-yard penalty. It's a first down.
And you can't miss Tank Johnson when he comes barreling across.
No. Ben Hartsock definitely moved, but it wasn't until Tank Johnson moved first. Came across the line. The Bengals, you think, imperative here they be able to keep the Jets out of the end zone in this situation.
So they'll spot the ball right on the 10-yard line. That'll make it first down. And they can get a first down without getting a touchdown by inches. Jones to about the 7-yard line.
You know, the one thing that you have to like about the New York Jets, yes, they have their rookie quarterback, and you know what goes with that, and you're going to get big mistakes and all those kinds of things. But I really feel like this team is sort of built for the future. You know, they've got so many things in place now with the defense, with the offensive line, with the way they run the ball. They're just waiting on this young man to grow up, and I think he will. I think he's going to be good.
And to the outside, Cotchery. Touchdown.
That gets the old rookie a little excited. Bunch formation, and the Bengals are short. They've got 3 guys out there for the New York Jets and just 2 for the Bengals, and you can see Leon Hall trying to signal for somebody to come over and help him. That was easy.
Feely for the extra point.
Wow.
37 seconds remaining in the half. 24-0 Jets. So the New York Jets with a win or else situation and playing like it. Cincinnati might have preferred to be the number 3, but then again, they can determine their opponent. You would think that Houston beat them earlier this season before this game started. Maybe they would rather have faced the Jets. Now, who knows?
They had no choice in the matter tonight. I'll tell you what, the Bengals were excited about being on national television. They probably wish this was on some D-regional game.
Feely's kick. Bernard Scott. And he'll take it back up to the 40-yard line with 30 seconds. Bengals tonight. Carson Palmer is 1 of 10. He's thrown a few balls on target, and then a couple of them have been dropped. Ocho Cinco there. Cosby right there. Here comes Caldwell.
I really think Carson Palmer's thrown the ball exceptionally well tonight in the kind of conditions we have out here with the cold and the wind, and he has gotten nothing out of his receivers.
1 of 10 for no yards. Coles caught the 1 pass for no gain. And now Palmer throws, and that's picked off. Intercepted by Dwight Lowry, and then Palmer is the last guy with a shot at him and knocks him out of bounds.
Dwight Lowry playing the nickel right there against Andre Caldwell. Read it all the way, and against man coverage, you can't do that. You can't stop your route when you're playing man-to-man against you, and you've got to end up just sprinting across the field. When he slowed down, allowed Lowry to get there. I am impressed. This Jets defense has been something out here tonight. The offense has been just as good.
Weird juxtaposition with the 2 tenants of this stadium. Had they going to close out their reigns here. Thomas Jones is the back. Sanchez going for the kill shot here. Last week, the Giants closing Giants Stadium and went belly up against Carolina, and then followed that up with a miserable performance today against Minnesota to end their season. And now the Jets closing this facility, which opened in 1976 and into which they moved in 1984, and looking like they're going to go to the playoffs. And then next year they'll go across the parking lot to that brand new facility. 2nd and 10.
False start, number 60, offense. 5-yard penalty. It's still 2nd down.
DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
The Bengals were looking like they were bringing everybody in that situation. And DeBrickashaw just flinched.
You think Rex is wearing thermals tonight?
I think he was born with thermals.
2nd and 15. Jones. And he'll get taken down at the 21, and he doesn't get out of bounds. And the Jets do have a timeout left, and Rex takes it right here and sends in the field goal group. Do what? Before the field goal? Jay Feely will attempt a field goal, and barring a defensive foul, this will be the final play of the half. It'll be a 39-yard attempt. Kellen Clemens will hold it. James Durrett will snap it to try to make it a 27-point halftime lead, and now the Bengals take a timeout. And it's the first booing of the night we've heard. Well, tonight, the one thing they decided was that there would be no alcohol here. So all of the drinking had to be done before the game. So there's no booze in the stadium, and that was the first booze of any other sort.
I knew you'd work that in at some point tonight.
Twisted mind, what can I tell you?
Fireman Ed, he doesn't need any booze. Come out here and have some fun. It is cold, though. Whew.
39-yard attempt by Feely. And that kick is good. And that's a perfect first half for the Jets, trying to win a trip to Cincinnati. They lead 27-0 at the break. And the Jets 30 minutes away from winning a trip to the banks of the Ohio, to Paul Brown Stadium, for a wild card game next weekend. They win, they beat the Bengals, and Baltimore will face New England. We know that. And the team on the short end of the stick would be the Houston Texans, who at the beginning of this game needed a Bengals win to get to the playoffs for the first time. But instead it's 27-0, and Cincinnati will get the ball as we start the third quarter at the New Jersey Meadowlands, with the kick fielded at the 5-yard line. This is Bernard Scott. Wrestled to the turf at the 24-yard line. And let's go to Andrea.
Well, Rex Ryan told me that he said to his team at halftime, you have to finish. But they may be having to do it without one of their big weapons, Brad Smith. He told me he's got a head and a shoulder injury, and he wasn't sure if he'd be back. As for Marvin Lewis, he said he'll decide in the third quarter how long he'll keep his starters in. He said he'd like to get something going on offense, especially for their confidence.
And Andrea, that offense in the first half with 7 yards. 15 plays, 7 yards. The Jets with 250 yards. start with Larry Johnson at running back. And then Palmer starts to trip. Gets the ball to the former Chief to the 26-yard line. First half numbers.
Well, we talked about the Bengals holding back some plays. They must have held back some pretty good plays in that first half. 7 yards, 1 first down, 5 minutes time of possession. Wow.
And that 1 first down on a penalty.
74 zone.
Well, they talked a good game last night anyway.
They sure did.
2nd and 8 from the 26-yard line. And Johnson gets ripped at the 18-yard line. That's Marcus Douglas.
Well, it's been a long list of guys. Marcus Douglas right there as the Bengals pull Douglas at their running back. Oh, man, it's like a circus out here.
3rd and 16 from the 18-yard line. And this time they give the ball to Brian Leonard. 3rd down back. He takes it up to the 26-yard line. So it is another 3 and out for the AFC North champions.
I'll tell you, this is a Jets defense that over the last 5 games allowed just 4 touchdowns and opposing quarterbacks 37 rating and just 204 yards on average, about 60 yards less than any other team in the NFL. Maybe they're just hitting their stride now.
Kevin Huber's punt is a line drive. Cotchery fields at his 28. And straight up the middle he comes. And then Leonard is there to knock him down at the Cincinnati 40-yard line after a 46-yard boot and a 32-yard run back. Early 3rd, the Jets 27 and the Bengals nothing. Of course, the New York Jets are all about, in a 50-year history, 1 game 40 seasons ago. Thomas Jones takes the ball to the 36.
And there was a certain paranoia coming into this game. I don't know enough about it, I guess, but a lot of the things that were written and said this week and the talk shows and all, like, oh, how the Jets going to blow this? How are they going to let us down? They always get us excited, then they let us down. But you just get the feeling that the formula is in place. There's an identity now for these New York Jets. And to be perfectly honest, it looks a lot like the old Giants teams of the 80s.
Angst is pervasive in sports. 2nd down and 6. Sometimes to a higher degree in places, and certainly with Jet fans. And to the 35-yard line, straight ahead goes Thomas Jones. And take a look at Brad Smith, the college quarterback in Missouri, who's the jack of all trades now, and he got him rolling on a 3rd and long on the opening series, a 57-yard run. And he tosses the ball back to Green. He fakes the toss, picks up enough yardage to get into the end zone there. And Andrew talking about a head injury, and returns questionable here, at least tonight. 3rd down and 5 from the 35-yard line as Sanchez throws, and it's caught by Edwards, and that's another Jet first down to the 26-yard line.
You know what's really interesting, Al, is that are we going to see Brad Smith start throwing the ball a little bit? You know, so far we've only seen him running the football, but there is a guy that threw for 8,000 yards, ran for 4,000 in college, so he's certainly capable. And if you had to defend that option and him throwing the football just a little bit, well, you've got some really serious issues for the Bengals next week.
Well, you know he can throw because of his pedigree, though this year he only threw 1 pass, and that was off a fake punt. 1st and 10, the ball is at the 26-yard line. Whoops. And then Edwards wasn't looking for it. The quick drop and the quick throw by Sanchez, and incomplete. No harm done.
It's not as a receiver getting hit in the hip doesn't happen to you a whole lot. Comes out. I'm going to get up. Well, what the heck. Mark Sanchez has done everything right tonight. And it almost stuck in his shoulder pads. I'm surprised he didn't complete that one.
You know, we say throw it between the numbers, and they did. 2nd down and 10 from the 26-yard line. Jones, 22. Let's go to Andrea.
Well, it's Marvin Lewis's worst case scenario, injuries. Chad Ochocinco has a left knee injury. He's out. Now, he slipped on that knee in pregame, so obviously still bothering him. Tom Nelson also out with a knee. And Pat Sims, a broken right forearm, gone for the rest of their season.
Well, that's going to be the issue now for the Bengals going into next week's game. Not only are they getting plastered by the Jets, and they have to face them, but those injuries are really mounting for them.
Especially defensively.
3rd and 6. And that's knocked down at the line of scrimmage. And here's how Ochocinco got hurt. Chad was warming up before the game, and this took place about an hour and a half before the game, and you can see what happens here as he slips and goes down.
You know, and he got up and he kind of looked like, yeah, he's just going to walk it off a little bit. And then he went over to the heater and he looked like he was really hurting. And then he went back out in the game, and I haven't really been able to detect it. Maybe he just didn't want to change his name back to Johnson. I don't know.
Here's Jay Feely with a 40-yard attempt. And that is right down Broadway. With 9:47 to go in the 3rd period. 30-0. Jets. One hop to Scott at the 5-yard line, and Feely can't stop him. And then 3 Jets converge on him as he takes it all the way down to the New York 40-yard line. It's the only burst tonight for Cincinnati, and you can put Carson Palmer's season to rest. Tonight, 1 of 11, no yards.
That's not too much of a quarterback rating there. J.T. O'Sullivan comes in, who started a few games for San Fran last year, about 8 of them. So he can play a little bit, see what he can do.
And to the 37-yard line, Larry Johnson.
Well, the premier matchup we thought coming into the game was Chad Ochocinco against Darrelle Revis, but it has been no contest from the beginning. Darrelle Revis has really taken it to Ochocinco. You don't know how much. His knee was a factor, but just watching him run, it looks like he's running fine to me. For Darrelle Revis, he's done what he's done to every other receiver, and let's say it again, Ochocinco said he's changing his name back to Johnson if he got blanked in this one, and he did.
2nd and 6, Jeremy Johnson. We asked Chad last night, you know, how hard is it to change your name, as Revis has had a perfect defensive night in regard to being thrown at and allowing any completions. He said it took me about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I said, wait a minute now. So is your name really, I mean, does the credit card bill come as Ochocinco? No, it comes as Johnson.
And about 10 of that was because the clerk was going, really?
Yeah.
Really?
3rd and 3 from the 35-yard line.
Yeah.
Timeout taken by Cincy. Bengals can't wait for this joint to be knocked down against the Jets. 0-7 going on 0-8 against the Giants. 0-3. So the Bengals will be, by the time this one is over, 0-11 in this stadium. Only Jimmy Hoffa has a worse record in this joint.
I'll tell you, though, the Jets look energized, don't they, defensively? They've been so dominant in this one. They have a lot of players that fit this system rather nicely. We talked about the cornerbacks earlier. But I think if you had to pick somebody other than Darrelle Revis on this defense that probably should have made the Pro Bowl, it's David Harris, their linebacker. He has been so consistent getting pressure, getting interceptions, leading the team in tackles. He has been their star.
And you don't hear much about him. 4th and a short 2 from the 34-yard line. And here's Larry Johnson, and Johnson will get it, turn the corner, stay in bounds, and take it all the way to the 12-yard line before he's forced out by Kerry Rhodes.
Well, that was some move in the hole that time by Larry Johnson. This is the old Larry Johnson that we used to see following Jeremy Johnson here. But watch him, it looks like he's sort of dead to rights. Ryan Fowler has him, and Ryan Fowler just got air. Larry Johnson had some good days. Cedric Benson missed a few games earlier this year, and Larry Johnson had big games, and I'm sure he's wanting to put on a bit of a show out here tonight to impress some other people.
From the 12-yard line. That's only the second first down for Cincinnati. 22-yard gain. They had 17 total yards until that play. And now they can't get lined up properly, and they're forced to spend another timeout. They're second on this drive.
You know, sometimes when
delay of game, offense, play clock expired before the quarterback signaled for timeout. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Well, JT O'Sullivan, the clock is right in front of him as you look. There you go. Oh, didn't draw that time. And he knows it.
First and 15 now from the 17-yard line. Here's a flag. Pass is caught out in the flat. Larry Johnson gets taken down. Walt Anderson, the referee, throwing the flag right after the snap.
I think Marvin Lewis is getting mad.
Illegal formation, not enough players on the line of scrimmage on the offense. It's a 5-yard penalty, still first down.
6.5 remaining now in the third quarter.
The Bengals starting to try and work some people in here to at least give them a look. Andre Smith, their #1 draft pick, now in the game. And just got taken out.
So it's first and 20.
Oh boy,
man!
You
man,
know, it's one thing to take a whipping. It's another thing to embarrass yourself.
Number 62, offense, 5-yard penalty. It's still first down.
You know, you can't take everybody out of the game. You know, everybody says, okay, well, you took Carson Palmer out, and what does that mean? And here we go. But right now, this football team can't even get lined up. How'd you like to be going into the playoffs after this kind of performance? This is as bad as they've been all season, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean they've only been blown out of one game, and that was at Minnesota earlier this month.
Houston gave them a pretty rough go at home too, but nothing like this.
11-point game, and they barely get this playoff.
Wow.
And it will be 2nd and 25. Saturday on NBC. We're going to start you off. Jets against Cincinnati or Houston, and then Philadelphia and Dallas from Arlington, Texas is the prime time game on Saturday night. On Sunday, Baltimore, New England, CBS will have that at 1 o'clock Eastern time, and then Green Bay at Arizona at 4:30 Eastern time. And that's your wild card lineup next week on the 3 network carriers, as the pass this time is caught at the 25-yard line by Cole. So Jets Cincinnati in all likelihood to start us off on NBC in the afternoon, and then the Philly Dallas rematch. And Today it was Dallas winning the division, and what a loss that was for Philadelphia in terms of they would have had the 2 seed. There it is again. Instead, they wind up having to go to Dallas again. The lineup again, Jets against Cincinnati or Houston against Cincinnati if somehow the Bengals pull off the all-time miracle tonight, and then Philadelphia against Dallas prime time next Saturday night right here on NBC. 3rd down and 22, and O'Sullivan going all the way back to Teterboro throws that one away. He was within the tackle box, so you could probably throw a flag if you wanted to, but maybe they won't for mercy purposes. But there is Rex Ryan, and you would never know it's 30-0 because here comes the flag.
Intentional grounding number 4. He lost the down. 4th down.
And if I remember correctly, this rule, once you go outside the tackle box, even if you come back inside it, it doesn't matter, that it's still intentional grounding. So despite the fact he ended up in it, once he left, then all bets were off at that point.
Sounds like a fishing trip.
So the game's a fishing trip. Honestly, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, this is...
You know, I mean, this is a Bengals team. They came in, they supposedly were all fired up, they were ready to go. Marvin thought his guys would play well. And what's doubly tough for Marvin is the fact the way they got beat. I mean, they got manhandled at the line of scrimmage in this one.
Kevin Hubert punting. Fair catch made at the 10-yard line by Jericho Cotchery with 4:45 left in the 3rd. And the Jets leading Cincinnati 30-zip. First down at the 10-yard line for the Jets with 4:45 remaining in the 3rd. Sean Green is the running back here. And Sanchez will give it to him. And with Cincinnati on its way to a loss, that means that Houston's going to get eliminated. Had the Bengals won this game, then the Texans would have been into the playoffs for the first time in their history, though Houston did beat New England today and wound up with a winning record for the first time in the history of that franchise. And Matt Schaub is on the phone with us as he is down in Texas. We're going to bring him in a moment and talk to him after a spectacular season, but it's going to be the end of the season in all likelihood. Well, Matt, congratulations to you individually, to your team collectively, but a tough one to watch for you guys tonight.
Yeah, it is, and thanks, guys. You know, we ended our season on a positive note, winning our last 4 after a rough and kind of disappointing first 12 games, going 5-7. You know, we were in a lot of games and kind of lost at the end in each one of them, but you know, we fought back and battled back through some adversity, and we're able to win our last 4 and stay in the hunt. And you know, hopefully at some point here, Cincinnati can pile up a whole lot of points here at the end.
I'm sorry.
Well, thanks.
I'm sorry, man.
Thanks for helping to keep the audience for us. We appreciate that.
We'll at least have a rating of 1 by the end of the night.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be slightly below what Carson Palmer's rating was tonight, which was 1.7.
5-yard penalty.
Oh my
Still
goodness!
3rd down.
You know, I've been following it on my phone. I haven't been watching it. I'm out to eat with my family and trying to enjoy our victory today. But you know, yeah, it hasn't been looking good so far.
Well, I know one thing, the Cincinnati Bengals were not looking forward to seeing you guys come back in because of the way you handled them the first time in Cincinnati, but I don't think they anticipated what they were going to see out of the Jets tonight either.
Yeah, I don't think they did, and you know, we were excited for an opportunity to go back up there and you know, get a playoff berth and go back up there and play those guys. You know, we matched up well with them, and we did some good things, both offensively and defensively, and liked our chances to, you know, advance further.
Well, you had a big day against them, obviously, with 392 yards when you guys beat them 28-17 on the 18th of October. There's a lot of talk around your town, of course, is what's going to happen with Gary Kubiak and all of that. I mean, what light can you shine upon us as to what's going to happen with your team next season?
Well, I'll tell you what, every single player in our locker room has his back. He's had our back from day one, and we went out to fight for him every single day. And he's the players' coach, and he's the guy that brought us all together, and he's the guy that we want to take us to the next step in our franchise, and that's the playoffs and on further. And we couldn't be more behind him, and I see us sticking around together and doing some great things in the future.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for visiting with us, and maybe we'll see you next year on Sunday Night Football. All the best to you. As Bernard Scott spins away and takes the ball down to the New York 35-yard line. The hotshot rookie out of Abilene Christian, drafted in the 6th round, and he's been a major find.
Yeah, he really has. And Chris Johnson, the great back from Tennessee, is who Marvin Lewis compares this young man to. He said he doesn't have quite the speed, obviously, but he has really been the big play guy for the Bengals. He had maybe the biggest play of the year so far for them with a kickoff return against the Steelers there that helped win that game.
Final 2 minutes of the period. Bernard Scott. So Mr. Rex Ryan, the rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback, heading to postseason play. And for Rex, his father, Buddy, was the Jets defensive line coach, and he was there for Super Bowl III. Rex was a kid in the stands, and he was the Jets linebacker coach, and Buddy would go on, of course, to be the defensive coordinator of that great Bears team, the '85 Bears. And then eventually to become the head coach at Philadelphia and Arizona. Sullivan. And that is caught by Coles. It's quite a catch at the 18-yard line. Lavernius has had a great career. I mean, 10 years in the league, most of those with the Jets. And he made his first ever touchdown catch the night that the Jets effected that incredible comeback against the Miami Dolphins on a Monday night in 2000.
Oh, look at that catch. Looked like Jumbo Elliott or something there. I don't forget all that stuff.
I think we've got some highlights of that coming up a little bit. And O'Sullivan is going to go down at the 25-yard line in the arms of Calvin Pace.
That's one of the things about this Jets team is they really don't have, you wouldn't call a premier pass rusher in the league, but they play the run so well. And now recently, Calvin Pace has been looking like a guy that could be one of those pressure guys on the outside. Brian Thomas, a big, stout guy on the other side, has been so good. I guess the only major disappointment for the Jets defensively this year is that Vernon Golston never turned into the guy that they hoped he would, and I think that Rex Ryan thought he could make it.
Golston was their #1 choice last year out of Ohio State. And this will be the final point.